Alright, so here we are with our live show number 4, and we have a couple people in the chat room. That's no problem. Do you have any questions before you head out? Or if anyone in the chat room has any questions? If not, I'll go on to the first demonstration. I received a question from a couple people actually about the character generator. When we start it up, you'll notice that your character, some people have a floor, and you'll notice the character keeps falling down. Well, they don't want the character to show up at all. And there's a easy fix for that. We have it set that we're grabbing a prefab of our character and we're just going to instantiate it. But another way we could do that, I'm just going to open up this script. It might take a bit since I'm recording and streaming on the same computer. I guess we don't need sound. Okay, so we have our game settings, and if we look in here, I believe we're spawning the character, or is there another script we're using? Ah, yeah, right here. We have a link to the player prefab. Instead of having a link to the player prefab, we can just come up here and create an empty, and you can put it wherever you want. I'm just going to reset it to 0, and then take our player script. Oops, not there. It will be under scripts. And character generator. So I'm just going to take that, drag it onto our new empty game object. And I'm just going to call this empty player. And if we go to that prefab that's on, or the link for our prefab on our player, and drag that empty one onto it, we're going to end up with 2 copies of it actually. We'll go into the script and tell it not to instantiate it, but just to use it as a reference. So you would come in here, and then where we're going to create our prefab, just comment that line out and make another one that says PC equals player prefab. Now that should work. Let's just test to make sure. Can everyone hear me okay? I forgot to do a sound check before we started. So we'll hit play, and I have a compiler error, so I did do something wrong. We forgot to tell it what it was. Game. And we'll just say it's a game object. And I'm going to clear this error out. We'll address that next. And there we go. So it starts up, and we didn't have a player falling to the ground. And now this error we're getting here with the broadcast exception, that's because in the manager or the messenger that we are using, there's a couple ways to send messages through there. And one of the ways is telling it that we don't need a listener, so just send it out. And if there's a listener for it, great. If there isn't, then no problem. Really, it's not an error. It's not going to crash your program. It's still going to run fine. Actually, here are the messenger modes right here. I wasn't really going to get into that because pretty much anything I send out, I'm going to want a listener for. But if you want to read through the documentation, it can tell you how to send it out without requiring a listener. But like I said, it shouldn't crash anything. It should be fine. But anyway, there you go. You now have your scene starting up, and you don't have a character falling down. And when you hit the W8 ADS keys to move around, you won't have anything flying around on the screen. So that was the first thing I wanted to take care of. So I'm just going to save that off. I'll close it down. There's no point in keeping it open. Was there any questions from chat? Unfortunately, I don't have that many today. So we got the character generation done, or the the character generation. Okay, there's someone typing in chat right now. Ah, Harold just joined in. How you doing? HR, I believe, right? I believe, am I pronouncing that right again? RL, that's it. So any questions? I've only got 2 left on my sheet. There wasn't that many questions today. I should actually probably open up a forum for people to post questions for the live shows. It'd probably be a little easier. Did you hit refresh? I've started up the feed here and I'm getting it. You might be able to hear my dogs upstairs playing. I'm going to move on to the next question that I have written down. So are the paid scripts the same as what you're using? Yes. The only difference is I've added a little bit of extra commenting just because the people who generally want the scripts might be having trouble. So a little bit of extra commenting might help. But I try to explain everything fairly well as I go through. So hopefully you're adding your own comments as we go. I originally was going through the scripts again and re-adding all the comments. But you know, we got about 20 scripts and I really didn't want to expand this series another 20 videos just to watch me put comments in. But if you have any questions, you know, make sure you post below and I'll try to answer them as best as I can. Yeah, I read about the opening up the App Store. It's supposed to be within 90 days. That's good to hear. Well, I'm not really sure if Unity has to do anything because you can already build a Mac standalone version and that might just be good enough. I'm not sure if it's going to be where you have to go through. Well, it's going to be less than a week. I'm not sure if you're going to have to go through and do the like an iPhone build, so you can have a build for the iPhone, you know, your iPad. Oh, it has to go through Xcode? Probably once it's released then, you need to probably look at it. Hopefully it's not another license. Because it is something I'd be interested in, but I don't know. I really don't want to make pick up another license for it. But then who's going to? That would be great if you could just build once on, you know, an iDevice and have it automatically fit all 3 platforms now. Not that it's hard with Unity 3. A lot of the input commands work on either a keyboard and mouse or a touchscreen now. So even if you had to, you know, make a separate, you know, hit build twice, it's pretty much exact same code each time. Well, Xcode's free. Yeah, the input is easier now. Before you used to have like, I forget exactly what it was because it's actually been a while since I've used it, but you had like touch events or phases or something like that that you had to use for your touch device. And then when you were using keyboard and mouse, you had your input class. Everything's under the input class now. Well, not exactly everything, but you can get by with pretty much just using input. And maybe for a couple special touch phase cases, you can just add a little bit of extra code. I actually have a project here. The my little game that I made for my son with the flashcards. I can just open that up and you can see the input from there. I think I have it on this computer. I'll check anyway. It's probably going to open really slow because I'm streaming and recording at the same time on the same computer. Okay, I just went over how I did that for the character generation scene. Now, did the character generation scene work before you added the third player controller? Okay, I'll just quickly go through it again. Okay, so I've answered 2 of the questions. And the last question I actually had was about the day-night cycle. Are we going to be adding one? If so, how does it work? If I do add one, it won't be in the basic versions. It'll be in one of the later versions. And I've never actually done a day-night cycle, but I don't imagine it would be that hard. One, you'll just want to have a script that controls how bright your lighting is in your scene. So as time goes on, you just fade it down, fade it up. And as far as the sky goes, the way I would do it is either have a sphere instead of a skybox, put a big sphere around your scene, and you can have the sphere rotate, or better yet, even have a dome, and just use the offset on your textures and have that move around. No sound at all for anyone?